Hello students and welcome to the lecture. So students, as we know that we are covering the parliament, all right, and these are the topics that we have discussed, that we have scheduled for the discussion under this particular series, like the introduction part, organization of parliament, composition of the two houses, system of elections to Lok Sabha, duration of two houses, membership of parliament, presiding officers of parliament, leaders in parliament, sessions of parliament, devices of parliamentary proceedings, legislative procedure in parliament, joint sitting of two houses, budget in parliament, multifunctional role of parliament, ineffectiveness of parliamentary control, position of Rajya Sabha, parliamentary privileges, and the sovereignty of parliament. All right. And if we talk about the topics that we have discussed so far, so basically we have done with the introduction part. Thereafter, the organization of parliament, composition of two houses, system of elections to Lok Sabha, duration of two houses, membership of parliament, presiding officers of parliament, leaders in parliament, sessions of parliament, devices of parliamentary proceedings is the topic that we have been discussing. All right, and the remaining topics are legislative procedure, joint sitting of two houses, budget in parliament, multifunctional role of parliament, ineffectiveness of parliamentary control, the position of Rajya Sabha, the parliamentary privileges, and the sovereignty of parliament. All right, so that is the picture that we have created so far altogether. So in this lecture, we will start from where we had left in the previous one. So we know that we are covering the devices of the parliamentary proceedings, and within this we have the topic motion of thanks. So if we talk about the motion of thanks, so the first session after each general elections and the first session of every fiscal year. So we have got two things here: general session and the first session of every fiscal year. So basically, if we talk about the parliament, then we know the Lok Sabha tenure is fixed by the constitution, that is 5 years, right? And if we talk about Rajya Sabha, we know that the Rajya Sabha has no fixed tenure and it's depend upon the parliament. So basically, as per the parliamentary provisions, the 6 years have been decided as the tenure of the Rajya Sabha. But here we will just take a reference of the Lok Sabha. Why? Because the direct elections generally held here only. All right. So basically, if we talk about the Lok Sabha, so suppose if the first meeting of the Lok Sabha was held in 2001, then the elections would be organized in 2005 because this is the year for the expiration of term of the Lok Sabha, and till 2006 the new Lok Sabha will be elected, and this will be known as the new elected Lok Sabha. So in 2006 they will be meeting for the first time. All right. And if we talk about the session, then we know that the parliament having 3 sessions, right? So here, this is the question to all of you. Just tell the name and tenure of the parliamentary sessions. All right. For this, you have 30 seconds to think and answer, and your time starts now. Just think about it. We have discussed this many a time, so I hope that you will give the right answer for it. 10 seconds have been passed off. Last 20 is remaining. Last 10 seconds remaining. All right, the time's up. So if we talk about it, the first is the budget session, then is monsoon session, and then is winter session. Okay, this is the name. And if we talk about the year, the years are, sorry, the months are, all right, from February to May, all right, from July to September, okay, from November to December. All right. So these are the months, and this is the name of the parliamentary session. So basically, it's depend upon the month in which the newly elected Lok Sabha was constituted. Okay, like suppose if the month is June, then that will be the monsoon session. If the month is January, that will be the budget session. If the month is October, that will be the winter session. So it's totally depend upon the month in which the newly elected Lok Sabha constituted. As per this, the session name would be decided. So whatsoever, whether it's a budget, monsoon or winter session, whatsoever session is here, whatever the first session will be there, who addresses it? The president. Okay, the president will address the first session after each general election, whether it's budget, monsoon or winter session. After this, there is a second thing, which is the first session of every fiscal year. All right. So we had already discussed the difference between the fiscal year and the calendar year. Okay, like we know, the calendar year is a normal year, and basically it is used for the general administrative and domestic purposes. Okay, and it starts from January, 1st January, and ends on 31st December. Right? If we talk about the fiscal year, we know the fiscal year is exclusively used for the monetary and financial purposes. And if we talk about the tenure, it starts from 1st April and it's at 31st March. All right. So this is the fiscal year. All right. And the first session of every fiscal year also addressed by the President of India. In this address, the President outlines the policies and programs of the government in the preceding year and the ensuing year. All right. So here we have got two new terms, the preceding year and the ensuing year. And let me tell you one thing, that these are the terms which are generally used in the field of finance. Okay. And they having their definite meaning. And what is that meaning? So if we talk about the preceding year, if we talk about the preceding year, then it is year immediately followed by current year, or you can say immediately followed the current year. All right. For example, if we take the example, suppose this year is 2024. Okay. So that will be your current year. All right. So the immediately followed year would be 2023. All right. Thereafter, if we talk about the ensuing year, so the ensuing year may have two different meanings. Means current year or year talking about. All right, current year or year talking about. Like if we take the reference of the first example, so if the 2024 is the current year and the president is addressing about the current year only, then that would be your ensuing year. All right, and if the president not talking about the 2024 and he is talking about, for example, 2025, okay, upcoming year, so that would become your ensuing year. Okay, so it's totally depend upon the president on which year he is talking about, but the preceding year is fixed. All right, and here most of the people get confused between the preceding year and the previous year. Okay, because both of them use in the field of finance. So the only difference between the preceding and the in the preceding and the previous year is that the preceding year would be the year that is immediately followed the current year. It means that if you're talking about 2024, all right, then if you're talking about 2024, okay, so the preceding year will be 2023, but the previous year could be any year which is followed the current year. All right, it might be 2020, 2021, 2022, not immediate. All right, but when the immediate word would be there, that will only the preceding year. All right, so that is the you can say meaning of the preceding year and the ensuing year. So basically whatsoever the government did about the policies and all, okay, in the preceding year 2023, that would be discussed in year 2024, and basically the President of India would talk about it and what the government is planning to do, whether in the current year 2024 or any upcoming year like the 2025, that is collectively known as the ensuing year. President will inform the houses about it. All right, so that would be done by him. This address of the president, which correspond to the speech from the throne in Britain. Like what is the meaning of this? Like if we talk about the parliamentary system of India, then we know that we had borrowed it from the British parliamentary system. Okay, so if we have something like this, like the president addressing the house, so the similar thing would be in the British parliament also. All right, but the only difference is this: the Indian head of the state, that is the position of President of India, that is republic. Why? Because he is elected. But the British head of the state is monarch. All right, and right now there is a queen. Okay, so similarly, like we do in India, similarly they do in Britain, but the address given by the monarch, and this is known as the speech from the throne in Britain. Okay, and this discussed by both of the houses. All right, and then it is known as the motion of thanks. Okay, at the end of the discussion, it means once the parliament you can say got the address from the president, when the provisions discussed, thereafter this motion and its provision put for voting whether to approve or disagree. Okay, and there are some other relevant fact with this, like this motion must be passed in the house, otherwise it's amount to the defeat of the government, like whatsoever the government did in the preceding year. All right, and whatsoever the government will do in the ensuing year. Okay, that it shows the governance and the administrative policies, whether in the field of socio-economic development or in the field of fiscal or defense and all. All right, so basically if the house does not approve it, so this is the clear-cut indication that the government has lost its majority. in the parliament. If the motion got disagreed and fails to get passed. All right. And as we know, in India, there is a majority party rules. Once the majority gone, the party or the government is required to resign. All right. This inaugural speech of the president is an occasion available to the members of parliament so that they could raise the discussion and debates and examine and criticize the government and administration for its lapses and failures. That's only the entire provisions, and you can say entire things which happened during the discussion, they all collectively put for voting. Okay, so the majority could be ensured, put to vote. All right. After this, the another thing that we have here is the no day yet named motion. What is this? It is a motion that has been admitted by the speaker, but no date has been fixed for discussion. Okay, like we know, whenever there is any motion which is required to be passed off, we know the presiding officer permission to admit that motion is required. All right, and here the presiding officers are whether the speaker or you can say the chairman. Okay, so if suppose there is a case like once the request for admission of the motion passed by the member, the presiding officer accepts it. Okay, but no date has been fixed for its discussion. Like the speaker said, okay, we will discuss it, but when we will discuss, that is not decided. Okay, so after this, the speaker considering the state of business in the house. It means that if the house is already engaged on some urgent public importance matter, or you can say on some debate and other proceedings are going on, so that will be considered by the speaker, and in consultation with the leader of the house. Whosoever is the leader of the house, generally the prime minister, right, as we had discussed. But it is not necessary. The prime minister could also nominate someone to be the leader of the house, or on the recommendation of the business advisory committee, whose president is the speaker, also allots a day or days or part of a day. Okay, whether the entire day, whether some of the days, or whether only some particular time period of the day could be allotted for the discussion of such a motion. All right, remember this. So here we have got the two words like leader of the house and leader of the opposition. Leader of house is visible and leader of opposition is alternative to this. Okay, so just let's make a quick revision of it. So we know the leader of a house will be the prime minister generally, or any member, or you can say any minister. Nominated by prime minister. Okay, and if we talk about the leader of opposition, so he will be the head of political party having 1/10 seats of Lok Sabha. All right, and we know in USA it is known as the majority leader, and this is known as the minority leader. Okay. After this, the another thing that we have here is the dilatory motion. Okay. So what is this? It is a motion for the adjournment of the debate on a bill, motion, resolution, etc. It means that suppose there is a debate going on certain bill, motion, resolution, etc. All right, and then some members feels that this must be stopped and this must be adjourned. All right, so this motion passed to retard or delay the progress of business under consideration of the House. All right, it means that suppose there are some conditions like let me give you a straightforward example. Suppose some bail motion resolution is being discussed in the House, all right, and basically the House is making the discussion at a progress, and the House is, you can say, is about to put it on the voting. Okay, because we know first the presentation will be here, thereafter approval would be granted, thereafter discussion would be there, thereafter voting would be there, and then assent of president required. Okay, so suppose if this part, discussing or debating, are being made at the progress, all right, and some members think that this is going too fast, they required more time so that they could you can say discuss it further, they could take time to find out the points whether in support or you can say whether against it and all. Okay, so that they could request the dilatory motion. Okay, so what it will do, it will either adjourn the debate or discussion, retard or delay the progress of a business under consideration of the House. Okay, it could be moved by a member at any time after a motion has been made. All right, it means that once the approval has been granted, like we know the motion could only be made once the presiding officer admitted it or permitted it. All right, so if the presiding officer approved it, it means the motion has been made, and now the motion could be discussed. Okay, and after discussion the motion would be put for the voting. All right, so during the discussing part, once the approval got granted, member could move it any time so that they could retard or delay the progress and retard the delay the debating or the you can say the discussion so that the more time could be granted. The debate on a dilatory motion must be restricted to the matter contained in such motion. Okay, it means that if suppose the dilatory motion would passed, so there are high chances that some of the members would be in favor, that they will say okay, we require more time to think about it and all right, so some of them will be in favor while the some of them will be in against, like they say the enough time has been granted and now it's a time to pass it for the voting. All right, so basically this favor and against will give rise to the debate, right? Okay, so whatsoever debate would be organized because of the passing of dilatory motion, this debate is restricted to the matter which is contained in such motion. Okay, it means that the subsidiary or out of the motion matter could not be considered under the debating under the dilatory motion. Okay, and if the speaker is of the opinion that such a motion is an abuse of the rules of the House, he may either forthwith put the question thereon, decline to the purpose the question. All right, so that is the power of the speaker regarding this. Okay, so students, basically in this lecture we have finished till here. In the next lecture we would continue from here. Till then, just revise the facts and figures that all we have discussed in this lecture and be ready for the another lecture. With this note, let's end this lecture and thank you.